Second, to ask Larry Stern to resign as president of the board due to his failure to call a special meeting as required by the Pennsylvania School Code, and to due to the fact that he cannot perform many of the duties due to a conflict of interest per the Pennsylvania Ethics Act. Motion and a second.
I'll make that motion. That was presented by Joy, I believe, correct?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Any comments? Hearing none, I'll go for roll call vote. Mrs. Wagner?
Okay. Mr. Richard Belts?
Yes.
Mr. David Bradley?
Definitely.
Mr. Nathan Fuller?
No.
Mr. Stephen Holland?
No.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik?
Yes.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli?
No.
Mr. Wayne Wentz?
No.
Ms. Joy Beers?
Yes.
Mr. Larry Stern?
No.
Okay, so I have 4 yes, 5 no, motion denied.
Well, actually, I'd like Joy to identify where I might have violated the Pennsylvania Ethics Act. And I would like that maybe she can send that to me in an email. That'd be great.
Yeah, I can talk
Motion
about
B.
it. I can talk about it briefly now if you like. An example of that is that you're in charge of figuring out who serves on the different committees. For example, the Personnel Committee, where you made yourself the chair. And according to the Pennsylvania Ethics Act, you should not be making decisions as a public servant on things that might directly benefit you. So that's an example where I don't think by law that you should be determining who the chair of the Personnel Committee is, since your family works for the district. And I think that by making yourself the chair actually of the Personnel Committee rather than naming someone else proves that you weren't able to do it correctly.
Well, that's your opinion. Thank you very much for that information.
Yep.
And I'll add to that. Our LASD policy prevents you from being the chair. You're an ex officio member of each of these committees. So by you taking a position and then also a chair position, you're blocking that opportunity. And when you also go down the ethical path of blocking of the 4 members of the board, that this thing is obviously a 5-4 on many occasions, and you block the majority of those boards from holding any committee members, you are blocking and silencing the community from an effective, proper governance. And then when you don't...
I think you're mistaken because I actually made Joy the treasurer, who is the chairman of the finance committee.
That was voted.
You're on academics and
one more time.
Policy with myself.
Yeah,
so I don't see,
Larry,
see what you see.
You really don't even have the understanding of logic. So here's the question. In the policy committee, is there any, how many of the 5 are on there and how many of the 4? 2 to 1. How about finance?
And Mr.
How about
Stern, I don't believe this is any.
Every one of them is the same way. You've stacked them.
We should go on to be.
No, Cleaver. No, we're having this discussion. He asked for it. Let's have the discussion.
He asked
I
from
know
Joy,
he asked that, but we're
respectfully
doing it here.
answered. He didn't ask for yours.
I know, but we're doing. I'm giving it.
On to motion B. I need a motion
offering.
and a second to censure Larry Stern, Rita Spinelli, Nathan Fuller, Wayne Wentz, Steve Holland for not performing their duties as school directors, specifically on the following items: allowing the administration to file the annual financial report past the state deadline and exposing our district to a fine, not holding the administration accountable on motions passed by the board, not instructing the administration to comply with the right to know law, and exposing our district to additional costs, and not allowing the board to be involved in the collective bargaining process. I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comment on that?
Yes, this is Rita. I have a comment. What exactly is your definition of censure, and what exactly is the consequence to this censure?
This is using the exact same language that you used when you censured Dave Bradley for not being the type of school director that you thought he should be a year or 2 ago.
I don't believe we censured him. I thought that was not the term that was used, because parliamentary procedure says a censure is basically a slap on the wrist, and requires a majority vote. So I'm wondering what you hope to gain by this is all.
Yeah, I know you're recognizing the fact that there's 5 of you who will vote against it, and and there's 4 of us, and I just think it's worth bringing up. I think it's worth bringing up that a job is not being done here.
And that's your opinion. You have no idea what job I've been doing, Joy. And I, for one, made you the treasurer of this board, and you resigned because an incident happened in the middle school. In my opinion, you don't have what it takes to be on this board, nor does Mrs. Mahalik. So you can censure me all you want. You can slap my hand all you want. But the one who's not doing their job here is you.
Yeah, okay. Oh my God. Okay, Rita, I can't tell you how little respect I have for you, and all of the ignorant and illogical things that you say, and the great damage that you are doing to our town and our district is very upsetting.
And I'll add to that. So the word censure is just that. It's an expression of disapproval, especially in a formal statement, Rita. And I think by the documentation of these 4 items shows that this board is not doing their job. It should be just a slap on the wrist, maybe an awakening, so that you can recognize that maybe you shouldn't be doing these things to your community. Maybe you should let them speak. I mean, after all, why don't we file the annual report on time? Why don't we hire the auditor on time so we can do it? I mean, why are you blocking financial transparency? Why would you vote to stop bank statements when it's legally responsible for all these board members to have them? I mean, it's under the school code. Why would you not hold your administration accountable if the board says we make a motion 8-1 to do this? Why would you not hold him accountable to make sure it happens? And when it doesn't happen, why wouldn't you censure him to say, do this job, right?
Thank you for your opinion.
No, I'm not done.
Bradley.
I'm not done. You don't have to cut me off yet.
Your opinion.
When we go down,
Thank you.
And then when we go down to this administration to comply with the right to know law, when we as a directors decide the responsibilities of our administration and staff, one of those would be to comply with the right to know law. So if we don't have our right to know officer available via email once every 5 days, they're not in compliance with the law. So we should manage that. So here's an opportunity to review that and know that we just want you to do it right, Rita. We just want you to do the job. And when you block the rest of this board from doing the job and then grandstand like, you're doing, it's just wrong. And when you say that you made Joy treasurer, that's just arrogant. It's a board that makes them. They had to vote. It was more than one. Right? And when you blocked her from information and she's on Times News and she's on Local 13 saying, hey, I'm not getting the information, you have a problem.
Dave, she's telling you the truth. They talk about it behind closed doors, and they decide we're going to make Joy treasurer for who knows what reason. And then
block you from information. You end up on TV 13 begging for it, and they say, well, we gave you. And then we find out that the contracts are not being administered properly. There's board members that are unaware of their situation, rubber stamping communities that have their own pet peeves and projects inside the system. You just passed a motion for the Lehigh Valley Health, and the reality is, who's going to decide 1, 3, or 5 years, or 7 years, or 10 years? Is it going to be the board, or is it going to be the administration? It's the abdication of authority, Rita, that you're being censured for. And I think it's responsible, especially as PSBA person, you should recognize the responsibility to make informed decisions and allow your 9 members of the board to ask questions, right? And not censor them with a mute key by the subordinate administration. You should know better, Rita. You've been on this board before. You shouldn't tell the community to downsize without first trying to downsize the district a little bit. We have less students. We have
Mr. Bradley, you are rambling on.
I have a year's worth of this stuff we could go over, but we'll just do those.
And so do I. And so do I.
Put them in an email.
And so do I. And whenever you're ready to do it, by all means, let me know. We'll do it between you and I.
I'm in. We'll have an open Zoom. I'll do it next Tuesday. I don't care.
Any other
Pick a
comments?
Zoom. We'll be glad to review each and every
Any
opportunity
other comments other than
within the
deliberation
community.
between Mr.
We're having a
Bradley?
conversation, a negotiation. I'm compromising with Rita.
Conversation is over.
You going to call the question on this one, Rita?
Wagner.
You want a roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. David Bradley,
Most definitely.
Mr. Nathan Fuller,
No.
Mr. Stephen Holland,
No.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik,
Yes.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli,
No.
Mr. Wayne Wentz,
No.
Ms. Joy Beers,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Belts,
Yes.
Mr. Larry Stern.
The AFR was not filed because the audit was not done, and we did not get a fine. It is the board's responsibility to hold administration responsible, not just 5 members. The same it is the board to make sure the right to know law is being taken care of and adhered to, which I believe our district is, to keep it out of harm's way. And at this point, I'm not going to comment on the last one because there is no collective bargaining process going. Item C.
Okay. So
Motion
4,
and a
5,
second.
motion denied. Go ahead.
Motion and a second to censure Nathan Fuller for not assuring the financial documents are made available for board review. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Joy and a second by Gail, Ms. Mahalik, sorry, and Ms. Beers. Any comments on that?
I'd like to make the statement that it is the responsibility of the treasurer under Pennsylvania School Code to ensure that the entire board receives bank statements, documents, records, and every invoice and every transaction, each dollar collected and each dollar dispersed. The fact that this board has failed to do that because 5 people are blocking it and allow Nathan to not be held accountable, this board should censure him to make sure that he does his job under Pennsylvania School Code and provides those documents to the board for review prior to our meetings. Thank you.
Any further comments? Roll call vote, Mrs. Wagner.
Sure. Mr. Nathan Fuller,
No.
Mr. Stephen Holland,
No.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik,
Yes.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli,
No.
Mr. Wayne Wentz,
No.
Ms. Joy Beers,
Yes. Let
Mr.
Dave see the bills.
Mr. Richard Belts,
Yes.
Mr. David Bradley,
Yes, we should see the bills before we pay them.
Mr. Larry Stern.
Yeah.
So 4 yes, 5 no, motion denied.